Hi guys, I'm Katie Room from Periapsis Press. David will be joining me shortly here. Still just getting a few things put together. I hope you guys are having a good first day of the week. There's some interesting things going on Twitter. Some discussions going on about different, I guess, popular art mediums, and we thought we would talk about it. Once again, we're sort of not the focal point of the drama, so we have very little skin in the game. But it's fun to talk about these kinds of things. And again, I've said this many times in the context of our own goals of promoting indies and how we believe our sort of philosophy about the best way to go about that. So we're really interested to see what you guys think, and are really glad that you guys are here. Let's see, I see Minuteman's Monitor and Periapsis, that's me. Periapsis Press, that's me. And Patrick and the Ultimate Kahuna, Justin TR, thank you for coming. And William Jeffrey Rankin. Very nice.
Nice crew tonight.
Yeah. So
I bet we'll get some more people trickling in here.
Yeah.
Too. I think it was I saw your retweet was getting a ton of likes. I think this is something that people are interested in and just always enjoy hearing talk about. So I think it should be fun. Yeah.
And I put together like 3 slides just to keep us on track so that this is a useful conversation. We have like a narrow set of points that we want to make, so it's not like it's a huge map of ideas, but just something to give us a focal.
Mm-hmm. It's easy to just ramble about this topic.
Right.
So I'm just trying to tweak the camera here. We can get it. I don't want to get everything in the other bookshelf, but we need to mess with this beforehand next time.
Yeah, sorry. Do you want me to?
Well, you could maybe scoot over a little bit. Then we can get more of your shelf.
My cool stuff.
Yep, and I can scoot in.
Like that?
Yeah, that works. Yeah, that works. Here, why don't you take this?
Oh, sorry.
And then I've got room. We can move this over a little bit.
Right between us here is the beginnings of our Lord of the Rings Rivendell Lego set, which we have been streaming on our chill streams. If you guys are interested in watching Legos go together, it's a lot of fun. Yeah,
we've done it twice now, and typically we have a fun conversation just about a lot of random topics. It's been really interactive the last couple times, so we've had a lot of fun. A lot of kind of we've reminisced about a lot of different pop culture stuff and nostalgia and things like that. A little outside of what we usually talk about. We talked about Magic the Gathering a bunch last time.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So maybe a spot for what the heck? What the heck is this?
What is it?
Look at this.
Did YouTube change?
Yeah, YouTube changed. I don't like it.
Wild. Weird.
Is that just because I clicked on? Okay, that's just because I clicked on it from the homepage. That was weird.
Oh.
I didn't like that at all.
I think this comment, from Sam is kind of fun. I'm here to defend Matt Walsh. Forget about indie art. Invest in a Daily Wire subscription and stay eternally angry.
Well, the ironic thing about this is that the Daily Wire is actually doing some cool stuff on the culture war front. If we're going to call it that. I mean, I have, I have my own objections to that kind of phrasing, but they're actually making movies.
Sure.
Right? They're actually making movies. When Disney fired Gina Carano, they actually brought her on and made a movie with her that a lot of people liked. So good on them, right? I don't particularly care for Ben Shapiro, but I mean, awesome. We need more of that. Like who else is making like nice movies that people want to watch?
Yeah.
So that's the weird thing about Matt Walsh is, I don't know. Not that the Daily Wire is like a very ideologically unified organization, but you know, it's kind of funny.
Patrick, anime has never given us an interesting story that has wrecked me for weeks at a time.
What?
He's being sarcastic.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if that was like a reference to something specific or what.
Yeah, I'd love to know which ones. Okay. I'll open this up.
Oh, Justin TR's got a good comment that I want to follow up on. He says sure. I used to know a guy who looks like Ben Shapiro's doppelganger. He was not exactly pleased if anyone brought it up. His girlfriend even less so. And I have a question. Does this guy have a sister?
So I just grabbed a couple of screenshots of so some tweets that were sort of going around. Let's see, April 26th, April 29th, and then Matt Walsh's original one was from back in March.
His anime satanic one.
Oh no, that one was from
that one's 5 years. That one is 5 years old.
Right. That's the one that started off this.
Today's drama. Yeah.
With George Alexopoulos. Because he retweeted it. And according to some of the comments that like him going back and forth, it actually just came up organically in his feed. So he wasn't scrolling back through looking for it.
And that's totally a thing that happens. Well, yeah. It doesn't mean that just that tweet, but somebody else could have been commenting on it. This happens a lot on Twitter, where you see something that is several weeks old, several months old, several years old. Yeah. That's totally a thing.
Yeah. So I grabbed this one. The anime satanic one was like he said it in a video, and then he said on Twitter, it actually meant all what did he call them? Cartoons. Yeah. All cartoons.
Yeah.
So like he was.
Yeah. He was kind of, after things started to go south, he was kind of experimenting with the level of hyperbole to push people's buttons and stuff. And I think we talked about that on our stream a little bit at the time. Yeah, so I don't know how in detail we need to go over that specific.
Yeah. That's why I didn't grab that one.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that we are objecting to about these is that is not it's not like we're complaining that they're not promoting indies, because we feel that they don't necessarily have to.
Yeah, nobody really owes anybody anything in terms of promotion, in our opinion.
We're more irritated by the dismissive sort of tone and sort of antagonistic treatment of these art forms, while supposedly championing a culture war.
Yeah, or just even if they're not talking about the culture war, just kind of like wishing for conservative or more, or libertarian, or just more sympathetic to our own values kind of culture.
Yeah. So they both Matt Walsh and Amy Therese came back around and said, well, I was trolling. And we want to just emphasize that that's not what trolling is. Trolling is when you say something you don't believe, or like a straight out lie,
or a very extreme exaggeration.
Right.
I think we're can talk about joking versus trolling. I think there's maybe room to call something that you wouldn't call a joke trolling.
Yeah.
But I would say trolling, I would define usually as saying something that's really exaggerating, saying things just to get a rise out of people.
Right. Yeah. Like it's a complete non-starter for a conversation. It's disingenuous. But in both of these cases, we would say that it's not trolling because they actually do believe those things. They are saying it in a hyperbolic way, and so then they say, well, I was just trolling, when it doesn't quite go there, when they get a lot of pushback. I saw quite a few people saying things like, well, I looked at Matt Walsh's tweets about video gaming or about anime, and he's exaggerating and it's kind of a joke, but like he's actually got like good points about like men shouldn't be addicted to video games, and children shouldn't play violent video games, and anime has a lot of problematic stuff in it or whatever. And it's like, those are fair points. It's like, well, those things are fair points, but he, like, the problem is not that he has those beliefs, but that he thinks that anime and video games are worthless and vices at best.
Yeah.
Like, and I feel pretty comfortable saying that he thinks those things based on the evidence that we have from his videos and posts.
Yeah. Something that I was kind of talking about is, again, like, nobody's obligated to do anything, but I think one thing, and I've even seen people do this, like that guy who jumped into my thread and was dissing comics, did this, where he was like, oh, comics are bad, and then he's like, well, indie comics are bad. I think there's some good European comics that time is going to remember, and he listed a couple of examples. So if what you're arguing is like thing X is generally bad, but there are some good examples of it, then usually you can give a couple of examples, like when people start accusing you of trolling or something. And I don't follow Matt Walsh on Twitter. I've got him muted, so I don't like see what he says day to day. I mean, if somebody can point us to him saying like, oh, I think this comic is okay, or this anime is okay, or I liked this, does he talk about any kind of like fiction or entertainment in a positive way? I don't think so, not that I'm aware of. It'd be interesting to know if he ever did. I only ever see him complaining about things.
Yeah.
I think he was complaining about the Lord of the Rings movies a while back.
Yeah, I seem to remember that.
So yeah, I mean, it would be interesting to see, it, you know, might not change my opinion of his message, but it might change how I sort of deal with him and how I caricature what he says. If I knew that if he was saying, you know, maybe there's a couple of things that are good, but I've never seen that from him.
Well, and you were saying earlier today that if he is going to sort of paint this caricature of people who enjoy anime, people who enjoy video games, then it's sort of fair for us to paint a caricature of him as someone who sits and stares at the wall, not doing anything fun. And we don't know of anything that he does for fun.
Yep.
So yeah, I guess that we see them as being sort of sly, I guess, in their use of the word trolling, sort of saying it's like a double slap, right? Like, I think your favorite hobby is awful, and also you reacted, you're stupid.
Yeah.
It's like, okay,
yeah,
can we talk about it, right? Like, and I think that's why G Prime 85 like went and started saying and like tagging Matt, saying like, I'll debate you guys, like if you guys believe this, let's talk about it. And like he got a little insulting with the thing that finally had to comment.
Before we get into that, let's go back over some comments, because some people are leaving some good comments and asking some questions. So way back, Sam Goyer, one of his first comments, he made the point, you know, look at the views. They say controversial things like this for engagement. Then they'll say something based that shows up in more people's timelines and get more followers. So that's a great point. And I mean, I think we're all on the same page here, right? We know what the grift is per se, but what we want to do is we want to leverage their bad behavior into something positive, which is not to like argue with them in the hope of changing their mind or something, right? The purpose of this isn't to try to get Matt Walsh's attention and convince him that anime is good,
right?
Or convince Amy Therese or David Reboy or whatever the Anime for Pedos guy is saying to change their minds. It's just to run up a flag and find our group of people who, you know, are aware of these people, maybe appreciate some of the stuff they do, but don't like that attitude. Right. So that's what we're doing. It's useful. It's useful both ways.
Yeah.
Right.
And the other thing that we thought was an important thing sort of related to this, right, is that their based opinions don't justify their behavior.
Yeah.
I saw a lot of that from multiple people, mutuals and people in comments in threads, like, why are you attacking him? Like, he's doing good work, right? It's like, well, we can challenge his ideas.
Yeah. We don't all have to agree.
Right.
Right. And, you know, disagreeing about this doesn't mean that we don't appreciate other stuff that they do. It really doesn't have anything to do with it.
Right. Yep.
Also, there was that one guy who was interacting with you, and it was kind of funny because he was like, you know, why are you attacking him while he was down? Because I guess the other week he
got hacked.
I mean, how many followers does Matt Walsh have, right? It's a huge number of people. It's like 1.8 million people. We have like 700 or 800 followers. We're not attacking him, right? He's not even aware of what we're doing, right? He sees George because George has 100,000 followers or whatever, right? He sees George. He's not aware of what we're doing. It doesn't matter.
We're not dogpiling.
Right.
him.
It would be dogpiling if we were to like pick on somebody with like a very small number of followers or whatever. Even then, it's Twitter, right? This is Twitter. If you're on Twitter, you're aware of how Twitter works.
Yeah.
So, it was kind of a funny reaction.
Yeah.
Another just couple.
William Jeffrey Rankin said, yeah, they seem to modulate their message after people
object.
Yeah,
and
for
sure.
I would say I
yeah,
that is my perception of it as well.
Yeah. Another couple things. Ultimate Kuna asked if anybody wrote reviews for Periapsis Press except you, and Patrick mentioned that he wrote a guest review of Uriel's Revenge, and there's a couple other.
That?
It's pretty close to the top. It's like,
why am I struggling?
It was like right. It was above the one that we just right there. There's Patrick talking about it. There's that one. Yep. We just want to make sure to talk about these before they get too far ahead.
Yeah.
And then
thank you.
But you've gotten guest reviews from other people too, right?
Yes. John Delarose did one for me. And I say did one for me. Usually what I do is I reach out to people who have already written a review that I like of a book that I liked, or of a book by an author who I've already reviewed one of their other books, and I'm fairly confident that book is one that I will also like. TJ Marquis has written several that I've reached out to him and asked if he will let me repost. And I do that primarily because I really like Periapsis Press to be a way for readers to find not just indie authors, but things to read, right? So books to read. So my website is, I think it's the best. But I also would like readers to be able to find indie creators and other people who are providing useful content such as reviews. So it's another way for readers to make connections and find their next read, right? Even if it's not from my website, maybe somebody else has a review that will be useful to them. So those are guest reviews. David wrote one very, very early on for a short story.
Yeah, that was like I think I wrote it for my blog ways before Periapsis Press started.
And the other reason that I do it that way is because for Periapsis Press, I am the curator, right? So that's the standard of quality is what I like. So I don't just like solicit reviews from other people or accept reviews from other people without knowing or being familiar with the author and the book. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about Periapsis Press, because I love to.
And then Jose Hernandez has a question too. Just to ask both of you real quick, if you had Disney money to make any Iron Age book into a show or film, which would it be? I'd go for Kit Sanchea's Singularity Sunrise. It's right there.
Yeah. Disney money. There's a lot of good ones.
And I'm assuming we're talking like Disney feature film money, not Disney Unreal Engine mediocrity.
Right.
Star Wars cash grab money.
Probably. Collateral Damage behind me. Would make the best movie.
Yeah.
And it's because it's a thriller. So that it's fast moving, and I think that would be a really compelling one.
I think
easy to do well.
Yeah. I think I would do The Last Ancestor.
Really?
Yep, by Alexander Lee. I think that is a book. There's a lot of detail in it in a novel form that you could, I mean, it's good and it serves a purpose, but you could condense away when you were making into a movie. Like there's different perspective shifts and stuff that you just could skip over.
That's true.
So, and it just kind of is a nice story.
It would be a good setting too.
Yeah, it would be fun to see as a movie.
Yeah.
All right, so let's keep going. We were William Rankin says Disney money, but not Disney approach. Yeah. All right, so we were getting into a little bit about that. What were you? Let's see. I forget what I kind of interrupted you on. You were talking about. You were either talking about like insulting. Yeah, you were like talking about sort of being insulted.
Oh yeah.
Maybe it was something else, but that was something that we hit. And then I think you were talking about George interacting with these things.
Yeah. So George started out the tweet that Matt Walsh actually finally responded to was this retweet of a 5-year-old tweet and an insult. He called him, you're gonna have to help me with this.
Oh, he called him a bearded puritanical Pharisee or Philistine.
Philistine.
Yeah.
And he got some flack for being insulting, for being rude.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked before how we wish people would be polite about the exchange of ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And we have said that not so much that we care about tone as much as we just would like conversations to be edifying.
Mm-hmm.
And to reflect well on our values, right? That being said, I think the insult is a little bit different than some of that have come up in our drama discussions before, because like the insult is extremely specific and relating to what he's talking about.
Yeah, it's not like just a general insult, right? He's not like calling Matt Walsh ugly. I mean, he's just, I mean, I guess the bearded thing is, if it's an insult, it's kind of an appearance-based thing, but it's a specific, he's calling Matt Walsh a puritanical Pharisee, or not Pharisee, a Philistine. So he's saying, you're you've got this sort of overly rule and regulation based way of thinking about things, and you have no appreciation for art. And I think both of those are sort of fair critiques of the sentiments or ideas that Matt Walsh is advocating on this front.
Yeah. So the rudeness, I think, is not, I think it's not the same as just being insulting. Like he's making his point in an accusation. So I guess I'm less, I feel less like he needs to be, his tone and attitude need to be reined in, right? Like I don't share that opinion about the situation, I guess, because of that. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about related to that in that way? Or did you want to talk about generalizations?
I want to talk about generalizations.
Okay. And I didn't make any, like I just made a title.
Yeah. Oh, and there's getting some good comments here. So William Rankin says, I think Walsh is dismissive because he doesn't really care. As Sam said, he has the engagement he wanted, isn't interested in a real conversation. Yeah, I mean, I don't know it could be that he really does care. I mean, I don't think he cares enough to want to put the effort into formulating an argument about why he says the things he does. I think he probably cares in the sense that he thinks that he's right. I think that he actually believes what he's saying. He's not saying it. He's not lying, right? He's not lying for engagement, but he is being hyperbolic for engagement. And we can talk about that here.
Stay Based says grifter's gonna grift, and I don't know if I would say that he's grifting. Although it's a fine line.
Yeah. So like having been called grifters by people, and I don't want to get into this. I mean, the way I would define grifting is kind of like being a sort of con artist, where you're selling people something, or you're taking money from people for something and giving them something else. I think when we use terms like conning, it's more of a general sort of indictment of, you're complaining about something without really trying to fix it. Rather than saying, oh, you're taking money for people and not giving them what you're telling them you're going to give them. Because I don't think that Matt Walsh is like literally conning people out of money or something. When you buy his kid's book about the kid who says he's a walrus, I mean, that's what you get. It's not something else.
Yeah. I think he's milking the engagement, but I don't know that I would say it's a grift.
Ultimate Kuna's got an interesting comment. What happened to the wisdom of dismissing someone insulting you being a sure sign that they're losing the argument? I don't really hold to that idea, because there's a lot, especially on the internet, on Twitter, there's a lot of, just fact of life, like we were just talking about, being deliberately inflammatory for engagement, or being hyperbolic just for engagement. And that, I don't think that really automatically, I don't think that should be, it doesn't automatically mean that what you're saying isn't true, right? I think it can be a sign of a weak argument, especially if you're not going to back it up.
Yeah.
Right. So an example of this would be if say, like, let's take Amy Treese, for instance, right? She was the one who was like, it's better if I would prefer it if men watched porn than cartoons.
Yeah.
If when she said I was only trolling, she says something like, oh yeah, I mean, I actually love this anime, or something, or I actually had a boyfriend who liked Akira, and I didn't hold it against him. I was just kind of doing this to get a rise out of people. Like, I would say I would have a lot more respect for her, honestly.
Yeah.
So, but these people, they don't do that. It's they say something that is actually really just an maybe slightly exaggerated form of something they believe, which is namely, genre or medium X is stupid, and you're stupid for liking it. And then when they get pushback on that idea, not their hyperbolic way of saying it, but that actual idea, then they say, oh, I was only trolling, or whatever.
And I think there's a grand tradition of being creative with insults.
Yeah, absolutely.
in the exchange of ideas. So I
Yeah, let's Yeah, the ultimate coolness is the continued practice of belittlement is feeding this unfortunate style interaction. Yeah, and I think there's a degree to which you can engage in this style of hyperbole without being insulting, or without being as insulting, and maybe just to bring it back a little bit here, I think what we want to convey here is we're not trying to necessarily be the tone police. Like, we sort of wish that interactions were more positive. People are welcome to say what they want, but I think we want to address the actual content of what's being said, not just the tone, right? The point isn't we got our fifis hurt because Matt Walsh says anime is for idiots. It's we want to see this sort of positive, conservative, libertarian people being able to build culture that reflects their values.
Yeah, and like a constructive conversation.
A constructive conversation about it. So
yeah, we're not mad we got trolled or whatever, right? Like, what we would like to see is actual exchange of ideas.
Yeah. So let's talk about hyperbole some. Did you make a slide about that?
The generalization?
Yeah.
I didn't have anything.
Oh, no, that's not it.
Nope. What were you talking about?
Okay, so I think I just wanted to talk a little bit about something. I wanted to address a couple of maybe ideas that are sort of my take on some of the subtleties of this argument.
Oh, sure.
So the first thing is like the difference between hyperbole and trolling, or hyperbole, trolling, and joking. And maybe we got into this already. we
got into it a little bit.
But let's flesh it out a little bit more. You're welcome to. So I would say, and I want to concentrate on the difference between hyperbole and joking, because I think I would kind of consider hyperbole to be a form of trolling. Like, you're trying to get a rise. Trolling is kind of like about trying to get, in my opinion, or the way I understand it, is about trying to get a rise out of somebody, or to sort of offend people, kind of get people's feelings rustled up. Maybe to, like, if people are sort of very interested in policing language or policing ideas, or controlling what appropriate discourse is, I think trolling is a way to break that. Like, you just toss these crazy, people are sort of afraid to say things. So when you're a troll, you can kind of toss these crazy ideas out there as a way to just sort of break that notion of what the appropriate discourse is. Or that's the way I understand it.
So then I guess, how does that contrast with what Matt Walsh or the others are doing, like when they say that they're trolling?
So I would kind of agree that they are trolling.
You would.
But I don't think they are necessarily being honest about it. Right? So okay, I see. So like, what I would say is, they're sort of, these people being very online and good at Twitter, right? When you get that many followers, unless you're famous from something else, you're good at Twitter. So they just live in permanent trolling mode.
Okay.
Right? So these things come out of their mouths. It's like their thoughts and their actual opinions are just already troll thoughts and opinions.
Okay.
So they say this stuff, and it's more or less what they actually believe, or a hyperbolic version of what they actually believe. They say it, they get pushed back, and then they're like, I was only joking, or I was only trolling.
Okay.
I would have a little bit more respect for them if they were like, haha, yeah, I was trolling, deal with it, bitch, or whatever. Right? But it's more like an after the fact excuse because they're trying to mitigate, in our opinion, they're trying to mitigate the response, or like make excuses for their behavior when it backfires, right? They're in these different modes. They're in permanent troll mode, but they're also like in appease my audience mode. So when they have maybe some of their own audience pushing back, they feel the need to explain what they did a little bit.
Okay.
That's my theory. We don't need to get too far down into that distinction, in my opinion.
So you're saying
I want to talk more about hyperbole versus joking.
Okay. But with the trolling, you're saying that they are trolling, but when they sort of get caught, they say I was only trolling, and it's sort of saying that's the lie. When they say, well, I would it didn't mean anything, or like I was only trying to get a rise out of you, and I don't actually hold that opinion.
Right.
That's the lie.
Right. And that's what we said when the Matt Walsh anime satanic thing happened. Is at the very least, he holds a less extreme, and that's why I'm trying to steer this back towards hyperbole.
Yeah.
Right. Because I think the hyperbole versus joking conversation is more useful than hyperbole versus trolling. Right. Because our assertion with Matt Walsh is he actually holds something that is, on that same line towards anime is satanic as an opinion. So when he gets pushback on it, he can say, well, and he never actually admitted that he never said anime isn't satanic. He said, I was only joking. I was only trolling, whatever.
Yeah.
But he actually does believe the thing that he was getting grief for believing. Right. Okay. So let's talk about hyperbole versus joking.
Yeah, go for it.
When I would say, like, typically I feel like in real life, when you say, oh, I was only joking, you would say that if you were like being sarcastic and said something that you didn't mean, and then somebody took it seriously, you'd say, oh, I was only joking. Right? Am I correct? I'd like to think about, because we all have an existence outside of the internet.
Yeah.
Right? Like if like say we were arguing about or say we were talking about where we wanted to go to breakfast.
Yeah.
And you really wanted to go to Denny's. And I wanted to go to Taco Bell, and we hopped in the car, and I was like, I would like to go to Taco Bell, and you were like, oh yeah, that sounds amazing, and I didn't pick up on your sarcasm. I said, really? Great, I'd love to go to Taco Bell too, and you said, no, I was only joking. Okay, right? Yeah. That would be an appropriate use of the idea of term. Joking. Right? Yeah. If we got in the car and you were, and I was like, well, I want to go to Taco Bell, and you said something like, if you don't take me to Denny's, I'm gonna slit your throat. Now that is also joking, but like
I actually care.
You actually want to go to Denny's,
right? And
if I said, okay, so you really want to go to Denny's, you wouldn't say, no, I was only joking, right? Or you wouldn't say, well, I was joking about the slitting your throat part, but I still want to go to Denny's. That's just weird, right? That's like kind of autistic behavior, right? Right. It's very like antisocial, not in the realm of normal human interaction kind of behavior. Right.
Yeah.
So hyperbole, I think, is valid, right? I think trolling is valid. I think it's good to challenge the bounds of acceptable dialogue. And one way to do that is sort of exaggerating your position, right? For the math nerds, it's like your opinion is like a vector, and you increase it. You make that vector greater in magnitude, but it's pointing in the same direction, right?
Okay.
So what I take issue with is this kind of hyperbolic language, and then when you get pushed back, say I was joking, right? Because I think most of us are smart enough to, when some of these people say something that we take as hyperbolic, I mean, it's Twitter, right? We're used to the sort of trolling, hyperbolic type language. We're used to reading between the lines and saying and sort of telling what they really mean, right? Like let's go back to the Amy Therese tweet, because I don't want to talk anymore about that anime satanic thing.
Yeah.
What was her original tweet? Maybe you can pull it back up. It was something about like, I would rather a man watch porn than comic books, cartoons, anime, and let's just look at this tweet actually and try to be honest with it here. Comic books, cartoons, and quote unquote graphic novels are for children. Would rather a guy who watches porn than reads that crap. At least he's red blooded bit, not an infant. Okay, so when I read that tweet, I think I'm smart enough to read between the lines. I don't think Amy Therese is saying, or at least me trying to be charitable with her, is not saying, okay, you know, my boyfriend and I are sitting together in the living room at night next to each other on the couch. I would rather that he would be like watching porn on his laptop next to me rather than watching anime. I think what she's saying is, I would rather, like, it's more understandable for a guy to watch porn than to be somebody who is like a very anime, somebody who's very into comics or cartoons or anime as a hobby. Right? That's my charitable interpretation of that tweet.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think I said to somebody who was arguing with me, like, at that time, just saying she has to be mad at somebody, like that, or drunk or something. And I said, well, we have, at some point you have to take, these people, like conservative talking heads, at their word about what they say. And like, it makes sense to me that someone like that would see the functionality of porn and not the functionality of entertainment in the form of these things, right?
Yep. And just, let's be charitable here, right? So if you are somebody who's, maybe most of your interaction with people who really enjoy cartoons and comics and anime is that kind of like caricature of a sort of dweeby person, right? Whereas, I think a lot of people believe that pretty much everybody watches porn, and watching pornography just kind of comes from sort of a natural sexual, I'm not saying I believe this, but like watching porn sort of comes from a natural sexual desire, and sort of being obsessed with cartoons is kind of a weird, like, bad thing for whatever reason. Like there you could kind of see that calculus being made. So but the point I was making is, like, when one of these conic type influencers makes a statement like that, they do it to be provocative and get engagement. But there's a lot of people who are pushing back on it, not for the hyperbolic part, but for the underlying sentiment. They're actually charitably reading what she says and kind of pushing back on it. And, if I had made a thread about that original Amy Therese tweet instead of just retweeting it with, I mean, that's what I would have done. I wouldn't have said, oh my gosh, it's ridiculous that somebody would prefer their boyfriend to sit next to them on the couch at night and watch porn instead of watching Dragon Ball Z, because I don't think that's what she actually meant. What I don't like is I don't like the attitude that it's sort of natural it's a natural, fine thing for a conservative or good values kind of, or whatever she stands for kind of man to want to watch porn, but they should be shamed for watching anime, or that's a childish thing, because that's sad. I don't like that idea, right?
I think probably this is a good place to bring up my I guess illustration. I think that these conservatives view these forms of entertainment in a similar way to how they would view something like gambling, as opposed to like porn, right? Where it is something that has to be talked about only in the context of how to prevent it from becoming a vice.
Yeah, or an obsession.
Or an obsession. Or it's running someone's life. As if the great majority of people who enjoy it are stupid, tricked into it, being taken advantage of, in the same way that people would talk about people who gamble. And I think that's extremely uncharitable, first, to treat adults that way at all, about how they want to spend their time and money. And second, it completely ignores the value of the artistic aesthetics, themes, the mediums as communication for our values.
Yeah.
And I think that is what I dislike about it. Is it is treating them as only as a potential source of disruption, degeneracy, problems in a person's life, and ignoring the edifying and positive things that it can do and does do for people.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of comes down to just sort of, they have a preference or desire to categorize things a certain way. And then if other people don't sort of categorize it that same way, then they just, like, their mind is kind of blown. But yeah, so yeah, and I agree with all that. The point is, it looks like Timo Burnham is heading off to bed. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
The point is that, you know, when we interact with these people, I was only joking is not a good response, because we know that you're being hyperbolic. Joking is when you say something that you don't mean. You know, trolling is a little bit more understandable. Like, you know, I mean, I think with the Matt Walsh thing, I think trolling, you know, but, you know, even then, it's like we are addressing the underlying thing that you're trying to say, right? We're already reading what you're saying charitably and responding to it that way.
But instead of responding in kind, they say, I was trolling.
Yeah.
And you're dumb for trying to reason with me at all.
Yep.
Instead of saying something like, I was joking, I actually think this.
Yeah. Yeah. Which if you were actually trying to diffuse or explain yourself, you could do, but they're not. And I mean, they're not obligated to. No. They're giant accounts. They're allowed to wrestle people's jimmies, whatever. But this is, you know, we're thinking about it.
Yeah.
The other thing that I wanted to talk about was just another kind of fallacy that I see in these discussions, and I'm going to see if I can find the tweet. So this was a tweet from Nurkish earlier today, and I like what I've seen of Nurkish, and I think he does some cool work. I think this tweet is in reference to this discussion, and I'm going to try my best to make a charitable interpretation of what he's saying. But I think you can also see people that we disagree with, like Matt Walsh types, arguing this way, and I think it's dumb. So basically what he shared that 4chan meme about making generalized statements about groups.
Oh yeah.
And I'm just gonna read that for people who haven't seen it. It's got a picture, I think, of one of those like angry Democrat like
I think she was a teacher.
faces. Yeah, she was like one of those angry, the one with the red hair and the glasses. And so it says, the easiest way and quickest way to test someone's intelligence is to make a generalized statement about a group. Say something like, Asian men are shorter on average if they say any variation of not, and if, okay, sorry, I'm going to back up. I'm talking too fast. Say something like, quote unquote, Asian men are shorter on average if they say any variation of not all Asian men are short, or I know a tall Asian guy, you are dealing with someone genuinely low IQ. They have proven that they aren't intelligent enough to understand abstract ideas like a statistical average or per capita. Why else would they think bringing up an exception like it was some profound statement? They literally cannot understand abstracts. No attempt at rationalizing or explaining yourself will increase their IQ. This is an important thing to understand. Just leaving the whole discussion about IQ or whatever aside, there are people who are just very hung up and can't understand making generalized statements about things. So here's the commentary that Nurkish gave. He says, this rule doesn't just apply to woke stuff like race or gender. It can be applied to things that people obsess over, like video games, comic books, toys, anime, pop music, cartoons. Suggest that they're not productive or inferior in any way, and watch people have childish meltdowns. And then in a follow-up tweet, nothing is inherently wrong with disposable entertainment, but the proliferation of geek/nerd culture has mainstreamed the comic book guy persona. And then he shared a gif of this guy with long hair in a comic shop from The Simpsons, I think. I'm not familiar with that reference, but so Nurkish has done a lot of work kind of criticizing woke culture and like Disney, Star Wars, stuff like that. So you know, I can, if he was kind of intending this to be you know, along those lines, you know, I think that's fair. Because there are people who literally will be like, you know, everything Disney, everything Star Wars has to be good, right? You know, when I saw this today, I thought, I didn't know if he was talking about this whole like anime, cartoons, whatever discussion, but I think some people might employ this line of argumentation. They might say something like, anime is for pedophiles, right? And then when you push back, or let's just say something simpler, more defensible, like cartoons are for kids, or indie cartoons are bad. And then if you push back on them, they would say something like, you're just a low IQ person who doesn't understand generalizations. You know, when I can make a general statement like cartoons are bad, while acknowledging that there are a few good ones, and you're just getting your briefs in a bunch because you're too dumb to understand generalizations. So I want to talk about how I would address that kind of argument. Mm-hmm. So first of all, I think that just making it, especially in the context of like fiction, right? And this is kind of what we're talking about, fiction, entertainment, or whatever. I don't think saying something like cartoons are for kids or anime is bad is really all that helpful if you're making this kind of statement, where when you say cartoons are for kids, you're saying something like, yeah, most cartoons are for kids, but some are for adults, because we all know that, right? Or anime is bad. That means like 90% of it is bad and there's some good stuff. Like, I think everybody just knows that, right? Like, most of everything is garbage, and then there's some of it that's good. This is just common knowledge. It's not
for pretty much everything.
For pretty much everything. So
in all of life.
so I mean, so that's it's just kind of a meaningless thing to say, because it should be obvious, right? Also, that's just not how that language works in this context, right? If you say, if you just said to somebody movies are bad, their reaction isn't going to be, oh yeah, most movies are bad, but there's a few good ones. They'd be like, what? Like, movies aren't all bad. Like, I just don't feel like that gels with the like common use of language,
right,
in this topic.
Yeah, it's kind of like if someone who was not a cat person said cats are bastards,
Mm-hmm.
and you said, well, not all cats are, right?
Mm-hmm.
And their response was, well, obviously I was generalizing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like, well, this person is still not a cat person and still hates cats, right? That point still stands.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that,
yeah,
like, it's the generalization is kind of irrelevant.
Yeah, and Doug Wise points out another thing, right? The problem is that the generalization argument is supposed to be used for factual statements, not opinions, and that's exactly true, right? That 4chan post is kind of talking about like bell curves and averages, right? Like, kind of, I think the context is typically like, when you're saying something like men are on average taller than women, and the response is like, there's many women that are very tall, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
you're making a statement about this the mathematical like shape of these distributions, and you can say something about the means while still acknowledging that there's overlap.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I think it's a little different to use that kind of language in these contexts, because it doesn't mean quite the same thing. And again, this is a thing where, I think we have an argument that we're making here about the substance of the argument, but if you want to talk about tone, right? If your intent is really just to say something like, most anime is bad, but there's a few good ones, then say that. Don't say anime is bad, right? I mean, it's Twitter. You're going to get dogpiled on by anime nerds.
Why not say most anime is bad, but here are the ones I liked, right?
Yeah, yeah. Or I don't like slice of life and harem anime, but I liked this one, even though it was one of those.
Right.
Like.
Or start out with the inflammatory tweet and then be like, haha, I was, trolling or what, and then give you the stuff that you actually appreciate and enjoy. Like, that's the kind of.
Yeah, it's a very weird kind of mode of talking about things, and there's these sort of justifications for it that I don't think are too compelling, and again, like I've talked about this before on Twitter, like the ideal tweet is something that kind of causes this angst or conflict inside of people, so they feel compelled to respond. So you say something that is like half true, or like 75% true, but then you make some claim in kind of a weird way, or you say something that people agree with, but you say it in an offensive way, so they're compelled to say how they agree with it, but they don't like your tone, right? This is kind of the thing, right? Again, like, so you make a general statement like anime is bad. Like, me, as somebody who's not obsessed with anime, it's like, I can see where somebody who would say that is coming from, right? but I don't like the sort of dismissal of an art form offhand. Mm-hmm. So you're like, should I respond? I know they're playing this 4D chess,
Right.
It's use of language that's intended to sort of create this conflict that makes you compelled to interact. And it's worth when you see that, just thinking, it doesn't have to be that way. You can say things in a few words that are clear, mm-hmm. right? You could say most anime is bad, but I like these, right? You don't have to pose it in that way. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Doug, I agree. So he says, I don't think they're actually trying to say few good. I think they're clearly trying to say, I don't like, and feel like they have to climb back. Mm-hmm. Just more honest to say, don't care for it. Exactly. They aren't actually trying to say few good.
Right.
But it's a way, these types of arguments would be ways that people could sort of push back on fair criticism of their underlying opinion.
Yeah.
But those would potentially be dishonest. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and another point, just too, I see some people like Ultimate Kuna says, I don't care for country rap, and I'm right, but people may enjoy what they want. At the end of the day, this is another fact too. I mean, we here acknowledge that there's a lot of things that are a matter of taste, and within reason, we're totally cool with people enjoying things that, and that's kind of why some of this stuff bothers me. Is like, there's all these people who really, really like anime who get offended by this. I don't really, really like anime, but I don't like that kind of prodding people and making fun of their tastes.
Would you like to transition into talking about some of the comics?
Oh, I was. We can just. Are we done?
I think so.
I was just.
I don't know if I have anything.
Gonna mention those at the end. I don't have a ton to say.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot more to say about this.
Okay.
I guess so.
Yeah, Drake Tungsten. I don't know if I know I've seen you around on other live streams. I don't think we've seen you on ours. So hi, Drake. Yeah, he says I like stuff. Agreed. The older I get, the more stuff I like. So I collect collections. So it bothers me to see people trying to police other people's tastes and everything. Yeah, so I think.
So today we're going to do something a little bit different. Usually I talk about indie fiction, like novels and stuff. And I have a bunch of those behind me. And you can always go to Periapsis Press and browse. I make the website browsable so that you guys can see by cover some of the stuff that I liked. And then you can click on them and read like my in-depth reviews of them. Today, since the conversations were more around more visual, modes of entertainment, comics and
stuff for kids.
We're gonna pull some of the indie stuff that we have from that medium and talk a little bit about why we like it. And
by we, you mean me?
Mostly David.
Because Katie's not really a comic reader.
I have a few, but I prefer larger chunks at a time of story, and I have less to say about. I have less confidence in my opinions about comics than I do of novels. So
yeah, and
I'm gonna cede the floor.
Yeah, and I'm not going to say a whole lot about this either because I'm not like a comics expert or anything. But just as long as comics came up and there was a annoying guy in our comics. Or in our comments being annoying about comics the other day, I thought I'd just try to share some stuff that I've enjoyed. So I'm going to end with some of the newer stuff that I've gotten, but I'll just show some older stuff. So many of you know Paula Ritchie from Twitter. She's got Soulbound. She's got 2 issues of that out. I'm not sure if I've read the second one actually yet, but the first one was really good. I'm not sure. I think you can probably get these from her store.
I believe so.
And it's I forget what the name of it. Other Realm Studio. So you should check her stuff out. Cool artwork, kind of a neat kind of fairy tale fantasy kind of comic.
I enjoyed that one as well.
Yeah. Some other stuff that I've gotten in the past. I've gotten Common America. Sometime I've got to finish reading those, and then we'll talk more about Common America, because my opinion on Common America has shifted a little bit due to different circumstances, but something that you might want to check out. Another comic that I got a while back that I think is pretty cool is Adobe Kroger, Dame Commander by Dan Sakharov. So this is just another example of something like really kind of unique and weird. It's like a sort of urban fantasy, kind of an urban fantasy sort of superhero type comic, where the characters have like sort of Christian theology inspired supernatural powers, and there's like Bible verses and stuff in it, but it's not really like a Christian comic. It's pretty interesting. And these are, I don't know if you can still get a hold of these. I'm sure you can find them different places, but they're just absolutely gorgeous black and white art. So if you like black and white comics, you should check these out, because they're really cool. Actually, here, this one is open, so I'll open it up. I can show it off. And these are part of something that was called the Mythiverse. I know there's a few different people on Twitter that were kind of building. There was like more of a fairy tale kind of thing. Let me just see if I can find a good. Just really striking, like black and white urban supernatural warfare kind of stuff. So that's pretty cool. And then more recently, some stuff that I got. So I just got these, and I made a little video which I posted to Twitter, and unfortunately I discovered after I posted it was mirrored.
Oh no.
So I need to fix that at some point, but I unboxed. This is King Cryptid by Alterna Comics, and this is written by Peter Simeti. And the really cool thing about King Cryptid is that it is going to be an ongoing series, and he's actually putting out 4 issues at a time. So I think they are 16-page issues, but this is one of the coolest things I've seen. So each issue there's the consistent story, but it's drawn by a different artist, and each issue has 2 covers. And they're printed on newsprint, which is kind of rare, I feel, for indie comics. They're printed on newsprint. They feel like an actual like comic that you would buy, and because of the newsprint, they feel and look like a vintage comic. So if you like vintage comics, you'll really like these. Kind of a nice kind of combination of modern and vintage art sensibilities and all this stuff. Really, really gorgeous stuff. Just look at this. Really colorful. I really like that. So the story is about this. It's kind of a superhero type character who I believe was a man, kind of became this cryptid monster, and he goes around mainly kind of helping and rescuing other cryptids that are being experimented on by this shady organization that's trying to exploit their powers. So a typical issue, I read the first couple, there ends up being like a cool fight between him and some like a giant Mothman or a rock monster or something, but then they kind of become friends at the end, and then they go their separate ways, kind of knowing that they might show up again later. So that's really cool. And then the other thing I really like about these, so in the campaign, you get 4 issues, and you can still back this campaign. 4 issues was with shipping was like $20. So this is a crazy deal in my opinion. In each of these, they have he has ads, and I think this is really fun because it's like ads for other stuff that you see on Twitter, other indie comic stuff, indie comic projects, indie comic websites, specific artists and letters. It's kind of fun because it's like a physical, like a little physical.
Like a snapshot
or artifact of the times.
Yeah.
If you're kind of in these indie comic circles on Twitter, it's a cool thing to have. And it's going to be an ongoing series. I think the next 4 are coming out, or the campaign for the next 4 is going to be coming in a couple months. So I'm definitely going to be backing more of this. Really, really good stuff. And then finally, something that shouldn't need any introduction, and I'm sharing this because I just got my copy of Wrecked Planet today by mistake. So I backed the Second Chance campaign for Wrecked Planet, and the guy who Ethan's hired to do fulfillment, he accidentally sent out 30 of them early, and I was one of them, so I got it. But Cyberfrog by Ethan Van Sciver, you can buy Cyberfrog, Blood Honey on their eBay store. Wrecked Planet you can get in a few different campaigns that he has up. It's like an add-on or a perk that you can back. The main campaigns for it are done, but he actually has them. It's real, and they're going to be shipping generally pretty soon. These books are just absolutely gorgeous. If you if you have any kind of appreciation of just visual art, I think you'll love this book. The big holdup for this book was this crazy like glossy cover that caused a bunch of like printing problems. But like I got this in the mail today. My parents were over, and I was just flipping through it, and they were just oohing and awing at the artwork. And they're, they don't have like a comic bone in their body, but it's just, this thing is like 60 or 70 pages long, and every page just makes you go, wow. The story is cool too. I really liked Blood Honey. It's, people have different opinions about Ethan Van Sciver, whatever. I really like his work. If you think cybernetic frog that battles like giant alien hornets that eat people sounds like a good time, then I think you won't be disappointed. You won't be disappointed with this. So let me just look at this. Look at all the reflections. Like, it's just insane. And this is like prime example of why indie stuff is good, because when you're on a monthly schedule, right, at DC or whatever, you don't have the time to make this kind of art, right? This is the only kind of thing that you can do when you have time to do what you want, and put all the care and time into it that you want, and not be worried about other stuff. So this is really good stuff. I recommend everybody check it out. And yeah, just some examples of comics that I enjoy as an adult. This is all indie stuff, right, that you can find and support, indie creators who do this either for fun or for a living. And
Patrick wanted to throw out Eric July's.
Yeah, so I did not back that, so I don't have it. I can't review it or talk about it. I'm not really too big into superheroes. That's one reason that I didn't get into comics before now, is as a kid, I never really like watched superhero shows. I never got them too much. Like my first real intro to superheroes was like the Marvel Spider-Man movie from 2002 and that kind of stuff. And I like more other stuff. Like you notice the stuff that I showed was, fantasy, kind of urban fantasy, maybe superhero-ish stuff, horror, fantasy, sci-fi, fantasy, horror with a little bit of superhero, like so you can find a lot of different stuff that doesn't quite fit into that superhero genre, and that's more what I'm into. But I've heard good things about ISOM as well, and I know that a lot of the comics guys that I listen to, the indie comics guys, really liked it too. And these are people who have giant audiences and strong opinions, and I don't think that they would feel the need to suck up to Eric July just because of how well ISOM sold. So it was really cool to start hearing when people started getting it that they did think it was really good. So I was really happy about that.
Yeah.
Well, that's probably about it. I set
aside a comment from Ultimate.
Yeah.
If it isn't too personal, what is your favorite decoration in your house? We've got some nice furniture.
Mm-hmm.
We like mid-century modern, small, slim furniture, and not like utilitarian modern furniture, but like actually mid-century modern with a sense of style and a little bit of a flair. So we have a really beautiful set of Copenhagen Lane tables.
Copenhagen tables. Yeah.
So not the if you go into any furniture stores, you'll see the kind with
vintage furniture stores. Right. You'll see Lane Acclaim
with the puzzle piece.
They have
edging.
They kind of have a jigsaw edging that contrasts light and dark wood. Yeah. This is a line that came before it. So they're actually mid-century. They're from like 1957 or something. Yeah. They're not foreign made. They're US made, and they're not like super fancy, but they look really nice.
Yeah, they're sort of a golden color, and they have almost like an Asian sort of.
It's definitely Asian. So
because it's got like the top piece has kind of a
when you look at the front, they look like a Japanese
torii gate.
Torii gate.
Because
the surface of the table has like a little wing out. The legs come straight down. They don't come at an angle. They come straight down, and then there's like a second bar that goes across below. So there's definitely like sort of an Asian influence. And
like a good Midwesterner, I am going to tell you that I got a great deal.
All of the Lane stuff that we got for a pretty good price, because we like to find it. We found it at different thrift shops. The first one that I just found at the thrift store for like $10. And then we found them different places and everything. For me, I don't have too many things that are only decorations. I'm more like to decorate with things I collect, like Legos or books, or like, just I like to have interesting sort of nice, useful stuff setting around. So I think probably in terms of decoration, I would say Legos. I have a pretty big collection of Lego Star Wars stuff that I have around different places, and it's fun having it out because it makes me smile every time I walk past it.
I decorate for Christmas really heavily.
Yeah, her thing.
Yeah, I have a lot of Christmas decorations that I'm sentimental and fond of and appreciate. So I would say that aesthetic is something that I enjoy a lot. Fake Midwest. Who's fake Midwest? Wait, me?
Different people have different definitions of Midwest. I know some people consider Midwest to be like Ohio. We live in Wisconsin, for people who don't know.
Yeah.
So I know some people call that like North Central US or something.
Really?
Yeah. Or yeah, they have different terms for it.
Sure.
Or they'll call Midwest Kansas or something. Sometimes. Yeah, different people have different definitions of it. So
I guess, okay, you can tell me whether or not we're fake Midwest.
Okay, AS Brunner says we're real Midwest.
Thank you. I mean, we pretty much fall into all of the Midwest stereotypes, so. And of course, the wood paneling is brought up.
Yeah, the room that we're in was actually the woodworking shop of the original owner of this house. So it's in the basement.
That's why you'll see
there are these power outlets
at desk level.
Yep. But right now it's my home office and the library and the place where we stream from.
Yeah.
So, but I think it looks cool, and the fun thing about this room is that it's a bunch of square footage in our house that doesn't count as finished.
Yep, because
square footage.
There's exposed beams.
Yeah, there's exposed beams, and the floor is not carpeted and stuff. So
it's
doesn't have an egress window, so it couldn't really be used as a bedroom.
Yep. The floor is it's like unfinished, but it's like
it's
got
sealed.
Like a polish or a seal.
It's sealant.
Yeah. So it's not like my dad's woodworking shop where it's like you could sweep forever and ever and still bring up sawdust.
Yeah. he had like a sawdust collection system and stuff like that, because he was kind of a neat freak. Yep. So all right, well, I think we should call it good for tonight, but thanks everybody for watching. Definitely check out some of these cool indie comics, and there's tons of stuff out there, so if none of this stuff looks to your taste, I'm sure you can find other stuff. I was admiring some of the ads in here for other Alterna stuff, so I know Alterna's got a lot of other stuff that I'm definitely going to check out now, because King Cryptid is so cool. For sure, check out Ethan Van Sciver's stuff, and there's a lot of other cool stuff in Comicsgate and kind of all the related books and campaigns, and just across every genre, right? So there's something, if you're new to comics, kind of coming into comics as an adult like me, I'm sure there's something that you'll find, style of art that you really like, or a kind of story that you like. So definitely check it out.
Yeah, and I just want to sort of end this by emphasizing that we think that these things have value for adults.
Yeah.
And that consuming them is not useless entertainment or sterile or stale. And that it's there's actually an importance to interacting with stories. And I think that's kind of a big topic that probably we won't get into right now, but like that's something that we seriously believe, otherwise we wouldn't be doing this.
Yeah, I mean, and I mean, just to sort of give a concrete example of this in the comics. So the Comicsgate stuff, right? It's made by grown adults who have been doing this for like Ethan Van Sciver, a professional comic book artist, been doing this for 30 years. This is his life's work, right? He finds an immense amount of meaning in this. He finds an immense amount of meaning in the story that he's telling. There is a lot of meaning in this. It's really cool. It's actually really cool, kind of how it ties together work from throughout his life. And the audience for these books is all kinds of people, right? So Ethan talks about how he sees kind of the core books that they promote as generally something that he wants to be like appropriate for like at least older kids and up. So like Cyberfrog, for instance, I don't think like there's nothing really sexual in it. There's maybe a little bit of swearing in it and violence and a fair amount of violence, but like nothing, like it's like a PG-13 rated movie, right? But they're not making these only for kids. They're making them just to be good things that anybody can enjoy. Mm-hmm. And these people, you know, they've been doing this for years. It's their life work. They enjoy and collaborate on all of each other's books. These are crafts people who have studied and practiced drawing, you know, like every day of their lives for so long. You know, they really have a great deal of passion for this. This is not something just for kids, right? I mean, the idea of that is just kind of ridiculous. There's so much passion and craft and vision and meaning that goes into this stuff. I think even if it's not for you, I would suggest that you should look at it and say, okay, well, that's not to my taste, but you know, I can understand or try to understand why people sort of appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us and for interacting with us in the chat and asking questions about both the topic that we were interacting with and just our aesthetic in general.
Yes, we're always happy to answer random questions. It's fun. It's fun just hanging out with everybody, and that's a good big part of why we like doing this too. It's fun just to hang out with people and talk. So,
guys, have a great night.